what would you say your legacy is from your career? What would you like Marilyn Simeone to be known for?
I would say probably the thing that I'm known for in, when I is the workplace, developing workplaces and establishing guidelines and standards. I did that for almost every place I worked. And so, I mean, that's basically how you and I met is
Yeah.
we had the whole mock-up. We were
Yep.
establishing what should we use for trading desks and everything. And I would probably say that's what people, because even when every place I worked, I established a workplace guidelines and standards. And it wasn't just on furniture. It was on a lot more than just the furniture. It was, different ways, everything from, oh, some of the I remember the one that we did for Merrill, it was probably several hundred pages long because it incorporated the technology and the lighting and the, everything. And and a lot of it was guidelines again. And then there was the hardcore, what we call standards. And that would change as well. But it was the same way we approached the vendors too. We went out and interviewed people and then we brought them in for mock-ups and then, and we just, and we brought everybody in together. So everybody was hearing the same thing. And then it was, again, in the beginning, and we did that even for who were the dealers or whatever, or other product. And at first, people weren't talking to each other. And then before you know it, they're exchanging cards or whatever. So again, it's a good way. And then, also the industry's small. So a lot of people knew each other as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an evolution, but it's pulling people along with you. And sometimes you're very successful and other times it's not so successful and you just learn from that and move forward.
What advice, if you have any, for high school or college students entering the field of, I guess, just design in general, like interior design, getting to corporate real estate and, managing facilities, or I guess just somebody looking at their career path, uh, in design, do you have any advice that you would impart to them?
What I would say, design is the solution to the criteria. And I think that's very important for students is to really listen, to really get to know who their audience is, get to know who their client is, and then find the best solution for them in a well-designed package. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, we're here to provide to guide them through the design process and everything, and then to realize also we walk away from the projects and they live with the projects. So it's important that they're happy with it because then it helps later because a lot of times they become your champions. It's amazing,
Yeah.
especially when you work internally. People become your champions by the way you actually listen to them and provide them with the proper solutions. But at the same time, provide a good quality design solution, not the latest trend, but what is something that is going to provide them a good outcome now and is going to be timeless and over the years, and that's really important too. In the trendy areas, you can do like in the areas that you have to redo all the time, like the dining rooms and all those, you're constantly replacing them because you use. So finding that delicate. But one thing I would really recommend for the students, because we would they'd always, the majority of them at the end of the sentence says, oh my gosh, I learned so much during my internship. And I know not all universities or institutions have internships, but even if they can do it during a break, like find some place to work for 6 weeks, or if they have the summer off. We used to hire summer interns, and it wasn't part of a program in their education, everything. But they just learn so much because they see what it takes to pull it together. Because as you were saying before, when you're in school, everything is, which is great. You have that freedom of creativity, which is wonderful, and it's not constrained. But when you get out into the real world, you have to take that creativity and how does it relate to what the parameters are set in front of you.
Right. Be more practical about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's finding that good balance, and and sometimes you can push people forward into things, but that's another thing is how do you push people forward? How do you bring them to see what your vision is and having them enjoy it? And that's, again, a lot of times it's through education and communications.